Our next speaker is a high schooler from Little Me Academy in the Philippines and the Stanford University Online High School in California, USA. She is passionate about writing, winning various local and global awards, including the Stanford OHS Poetry Contest and an NAGMAC Writing Fellowship before publishing her first book of poetry, Homesick, in 2019. She is also a dedicated and versatile student leader in 10 clubs across both schools, from student government and creative curating to UNICEF and competitive entrepreneurship. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage Aikira Olandeska.
My name is Aikira Olandeska. I am 16 years old and I am a teenager. I also have glasses and the light flare is so bad I have to put this down. This was not part of the speech. What comes to your mind when you hear the word teenager? Do you think of confusing language like LOL, OMG, SMH, or 14 hours spent in the computer shop and the remaining 10 hours on social media? Or locking themselves in the rooms and not talking to anybody? If that's what you're thinking, you're actually accurate, but not completely. I don't know if this story will fit into your thinking, but let me tell it to you anyway. It's about this high schooler in my hometown. Let's call him Josh. He had very busy parents who had not seen him or talked to him in months, so he lived with his grandparents. But he still excelled in his studies. In fact, in March of this year, he was named valedictorian of his class. Although none of his family were able to make it, he came home to a quiet congrats. 5 days later, his grandparents noticed a strange smell coming from upstairs in his room. So they went on to check on him, which they hadn't done since graduation, and the room was empty. To their horror, however, when they opened the window, they saw Josh hanging, white-eyed, pale, and long dead. When we think of teenagers, we don't usually think of things like depression, far less suicide. We don't know that 200,000 Filipinos take their own lives each year, that 5 of them are young children who visit the hospital because of a suicide attempt, 5 every day, and 1 in 5 young Pinoys suffer from a mental health issue. We don't think of these things because it's strange. Teenagers have everything: education, technology, bigger social circles, a much better living condition. We don't have to cross an ocean to go to school or plant rice to pay the rent. We don't have to worry about these things. So where is all the negativity coming from? I used to wonder why my older peers struggled with this until I became part of that statistic. Teenagers are indeed given everything that they need, but what is needed to live? Love, acceptance, care, belongingness, the feeling of home. We can't find these things in college degrees or a well-paying job or our own car, yet we keep searching for home in these things because we're told it's everything we need. It's not. We need love, we need a home, and we can only find these things in the people around us. I found my home through my pen and the blank page of a notebook. When you write, especially when you write poetry, everything and everyone around you becomes your muse. You can't help but fall in love with them. When I look at a chair, I admire its strength and fortitude. When I look at a person in front of me, I just think of everywhere else they could have been, but they chose to be here. Whenever someone shakes my hand, I can only think of what work those hands have done, what people they have lost and let go, or those that they have loved and embraced. Everyone and everything are all beautiful, unwritten poems waiting for someone to breathe life into them. When I wrote my book's first poem, I rebuilt my relationships with my friends and family. When I performed my first spoken word piece, a 7-year-old kid came up to me and asked to buy my book. Today, she writes her own poetry every day and reads it to her mom. Whenever I speak at Stanford University, I touch the hearts of my friends from all over the world and inspire them to write also by leading the literature and spoken word clubs. And when I write, I express how it feels to be in the dark, and I learn how to see the light, and I celebrate being in it. I embrace my homesickness, but I also learn to find my way back home, and I make others feel the same way. When you hear the word teenager, I hope you will find a different picture by looking at me and looking at the teenagers around you, and that you will buy my book, Homesick, and start to change the world and change these teenagers' thinking, change the future, one poem at a time.